Namaste, y'all. This is Alice, and I'm bringing up another topic that is going to be focused on the group that I moderate on Facebook. That is supporting men who date trans women. I'll be addressing the social issues that we have to deal with in order to eventually land together. And it is quite a problem, and it is shown to be all over the world. But in this segment, I'll be talking about mainly the types of attraction that I see directed towards trans women. So what are qualities that our partners have and what they like about us. And I'll be following up with the resistance that prevents us from being together. Now, before I start talking, I do want to remind that when we talk about trans women are women. So we're going to be talking about androgyny today. I don't want people to get that mixed up by thinking that trans women are some other um, identity. Where here in the West, we prefer to be known as women, and that's why we use trans woman. And then vice versa for trans men are men. So, okay. So, the root of why I'm bringing up this conversation is because I hear a saying where is basically a man says, I like trans. And that's okay. But the thing is, for the group, a lot of times these men are attracted to just women, but they like the androgyny. They like a woman with a cock. And so to refine that, I do want to bring back on the terms of transgender and cisgender. So these terms, cis and trans, are rooted in Latin, and what it means is cis is on one side and trans is to the opposing side. So they're actually rooted in binary, which makes a mess because that's what causes all our social issues is these binary way of thinking. But here we are again. So, but if you say that you like trans and you happen to go to a queer gathering and you say that, you might be confusing trans men that are interested in a potential gay relationship with you. That's okay if you're also into men, but it will be confusing since there's a whole slew of identities that fall under the trans umbrella. So that'd be like, I'm a male to female trans woman. There's also female to male trans man. There are non-binary. There's gender neutral. There's bigender. There's folks that cross-dress. The list goes on, and it continues to grow by the day, I swear. So just keep that in mind because uh, it helps to articulate a bit more of what you're looking for in your partner and to do it respectfully, of course. So the first thing I do want to bring up is the idea of androgyny. This term androgyny, I actually didn't really know what that meant until I went to Hong Kong. I had to go to the other side of the world only to pick up how popular this word is and at least that area of the world where folks would, it would come in translation, of course, but to talk about people and their androgyny, it's like here we talk about a transgender, but to articulate on androgyny and the physical appearance, and if you're not familiar with androgyny, that would be a mixture of male and female traits in one body. So there's a lot to be said about that because for cisgender women, there's also androgyny. There are women who have androgynous looks, and men or women or whoever likes that a part of them. So to refine on the first main attraction I hear in the group, and that is particularly a man that is attracted to just women who prefer them to have a lady cock or a clitty, however, to reinforce and to respectfully acknowledge our gender identities as women. So, but there's no shame in that. There is a some hate that's directed towards what is called chasers and in the trans community. I don't consider them chasers if they're being respectful. We don't get to choose our sexual orientations. So I'm going to respect them just like any other folks that I've met in the LGBTQ plus community and beyond that also. I mean, these are just labels. At the end of the day, we're people we love, and we're just one global community in the view of my eyes. So okay, but not all men who date trans women are interested in that sort of attraction, meaning that the genitalia is not going to be the big factor. So a lot of times, uh, let's see. Yeah, I'll hear this where they're interested in my journey. So I'm going to speak from my dating experience, where I meet men and they're interested in my what I've gone through in order to be a woman, and interested in the things I deal with the oppression, and to be humble and to respect who they are. And so, not to say cis women don't do this, but it is a reputation that we will respect our partners and allow them to be who they really are. We've as trans women, we've done that thing where we were forced into a box and we had to get out to be who we are. We would never want to do that to our partners. And if we are, well, there's another lesson to be learned there. But so yes, it's a journey that I definitely appreciate. I'm so happy to be a transgender person. It's not going to be the same for other trans people because it's very painful. But for me, I've gone through healing and I recognize all the things that I've gained from my transition. And to find a partner that sees value in my journey, and it just fills my heart. Like, yes, that's why I would want you to be with me. And the other part would be, so there are individuals that are attracted to the transition. So the idea that I've gone from a man to a woman, there's some magic there that I met where there's something that's just like the idea of that, like to blossom, to cross these energies, and to come out in this beautiful form, and to be recognized for that. I I love that, because yes, that's who I am and who I was, and I do want to love who I was and who I am now. So what better way is to be with a partner that can recognize the same? And let's see, and of course, oh yeah, yeah, this is definitely common for trans women that are really they want to really pronounce their femininity, so hyper femininity. So there are men that really do appreciate a woman to go all out and keep up with her looks and wear the nice dresses and the jewelry and the makeup and do their hair, get their nails done, all this stuff, and it's like consistent, right? And so there are men that really do appreciate that. It comes up with a counter argument from some cis women where they're like, that's not what women really are. And well, it goes back to the labels. Like, you cannot define exactly who or what defines a woman and what defines a man because it changes, it varies culturally. And so, really, at the end of the day, what we were searching for is to be ourselves. So there you go. And of course, if you have a hard time sharing the label, well, there's some introspection to be done there because why are you holding on to the label then if it's going to hurt you? So let's see here. And of course, the challenge to think differently. So we were brought up in a way where a lot of us didn't. There's resistance for us to come out, and when we do that, we are going to hit brick walls, and we are going to have lessons where we're going to think twice about who we hurt in the past and our actions and how we're living our life. If we are following the script of the American dream, meaning like get the education, get the job, get the wife, have kids, and just like do the common things that everyone wants to do to make their parents proud, right? After you go through this experience, you can think and free yourself to actually figure out like what is best for Alice. What does she really want to do tomorrow? I don't have to abide by those rules anymore, and I'm really happy that I do meet men that appreciate that, because particularly men in leadership, and I just love that because they're also independent thinkers, but they appreciate that about me as well, because I choose to think twice, and get out of that script. So I'm glad that attracts other folks who are like minded in terms of independent thinking. Such a gift. So Okay, and the second part that I want to get into is the resistance. Why you're not seeing so many couples like us where it's a cisgender man and a trans woman. It could be like where the trans women are blending and you wouldn't know, but the truth is there is a lot of resistance for us to come together. So I'm going to go ahead and share that. So, and this is useful for the men in the groups to understand what is really going on and why we're not built to date like normal cis men and women and go out just on regular dates. So, in Western culture, um, there this just is rooted in our history where uh, the West has taken teachings from the Bible, and this is not the true teachings, but we've taken it and we manipulated it in a way where we can control. The idea is to use these words to control, and then you see these colonies that spread out and just wiped out any sort of knowledge of third gender or having this fluidity between uh, man and woman. And that could be like in terms of gender roles or gender expression or sexual orientation, however that looks. Anytime that there was any sort of colony that was going out and taking over, we would wipe their culture out. And so we today we live in a culture that is very binary, where it's very hard to justify like that there's more than a man and a woman in the terms of what the church would look like. But another beautiful lesson for me is I learned that God cannot be contained in a church. So I know the truth, and so I'm just happy to know that I can appreciate fluidity and my beautiful transness. Let's see. Similar things, of course, like for opposite gender attraction. If you want to say same sex attraction, doesn't really quite make sense when someone's going through physical transition. But for those combinations where we'll say the trans woman can't bear kids, I've actually been rejected a few times in my past because I couldn't bear children, and they knew about that. So, well, they know earlier on some cis women cannot bear kids, and they find out later on. And so, but either way, it's both a painful experience, and but that does happen. Can be seen as gay couple. Yes. I mean, we still have conservative families in America and looking to check off a box, right? So a lot of our friends are still in that mindset where they have to understand exactly what's going on outside of their body. But that's not the case. We have our own experiences, and to be able to accept people for who they are right now takes a lot of work. The last point I want to make is fear and impact of their dating pool. So a lot of men do not want to pursue trans women in a public fashion in a respectful way. So that a lot of times, in what will happen is men will get on dating apps that are specifically focused on trans women or lady boys or anything that would market this particular attraction, and the idea would be able to work around and not be public. So, and there's a lot of sex work that happens, and so there's a cycle that I talked about in the other video. Well, yeah, at least I'll put up a video, but the cycle where men who are coming from porn, they don't realize they're objectifying, and so they're coming in only interested in sex, and then here's a trans woman that get on the app, and they discover that the men are only looking for sex. They get hurt, and so they discover the world of sex work and transactional behavior, and you have this cycle. And a lot of people think that that is the trans community, where it's not. It's only just the folks who are learning to love. But for the rest of the folks that are trans identified, we are not in that scene, and we are loving. We are advocating for other minorities, and yes, so that is not a true representation of the trans community, but that happens. And so to build to address why the men are wanting to go into apps that are specific towards trans women, a lot of them want to be stealth about this. They don't want others to find out, and it's because there'll be a cost with their reputation, right? Um, so, but it is difficult for a man to be open about passing a compliment to a trans woman because it could there's a fear that if someone were to find out, one, that they could be scolded in their family, but also if any sort of cis woman found out that they dated a trans woman, then there could be some sort of fear about how he's preferable in genitalia, and that's not the case always. There could be, which he knows that he's much compatible with a trans woman, a non-op trans woman, meaning a trans woman that is comfortable having her lady cock, um, versus a pre-op trans woman that actually wants to remove her lady cock going forward. But that fear is enough to hold men back and not approach a trans woman in a respectful way, and so they get caught into that loop, and it just builds a world of frustration and distaste for life. And I will address a little bit more of that in other videos as I start getting more into knowledge of duality and non-duality, with a spiritual view of what's going on there. But for this take, I do want to highlight why we're having issues coming together. And, well, if you look at it from this another perspective, is we are nature. And there's a famous saying that says, nature loves variation, however, society does not. And what I see is that we have lovers that are meant to be with each other, but we have social obstacles because society does not want us to be together. So we're going to overcome those, and we're going to create community, and we're gonna make it a game changer. So that's how we do it. I love you, and yes, always looking for feedback, comments on what other topics I can add to the list on this channel, as I'm just kicking things off and expanding my outreach. I will also be reaching out not just towards men who date trans women, but I'll be wanting to take the knowledge of love from experiences from those who have been in non-conforming relationships. So that can be queer identified, it could be interracial, it could be where one or both are trans lovers. Any sort of experience where there were social obstacles that needed to be overcome for those lovebirds to come together. I see that there's value in talking about that, so that the rest of the world can learn and help their challenges as well that they're seeing. So I love you, I love you, I love you, and good night.